My name is Sunyoung. I am an organizer with the Los Angeles Bus Riders Union and the Labor Community Strategy Center. I particularly work with Black, Latino, and API working class communities, bus riders in Los Angeles, around the Clean Air, Clean Lungs, Clean Buses campaign. One of the reasons why I got involved with climate change work and in general public health and environmental justice work is I see the environment and the future of both the third world and people of color within the United States, our well-being at stake, and it's very linked with all the ecological crisis, the financial crisis, all the crisis that's going on, which goes back to how we relate with Mother Earth and and especially as women as well, how we relate that back to our bodies and our families. And so that's one of the main reasons I got involved with the climate change work. So the reason I came to this gathering was basically some of the grassroots groups that work here, advocates for environmental human rights, and the Environmental Justice and Climate Change Initiative are very important allies and who are doing very, very great work, working with both frontline communities and other grassroots groups that are fighting literally head-to-head with the very corporations that are dumping some of the most toxic and deadly chemicals into the environment and poisoning, in particular, Black and brown poor communities. And it's really good to directly meet those fighters in the movement and be able to connect with them and try to strategize around building a broader vision and how we're going to really tackle on the issue of climate change from a social justice angle. So how do I see my experience around climate change into the rest of the world? Well, today, from the conference, I learned that 90% of the food in Asia is produced by women. So damn, my Asian sisters are, feeding the continent. But not only that, I had the privilege to travel to South America during college and met a lot of fierce, radical women leaders within, the indigenous community there who are fighting against U.S. corporations that were trying to privatize their water, that were trying to take over their land because of the oil and natural resources that their land had. And the struggle is happening literally on the backs of their labor, on the backs of their families that they're trying to protect. And it was really inspiring to be able to connect with them. And I think I have a role and responsibility here in the U.S. in basically the belly of the beast to stay the hands of my government and the very corporations that go there and wreak havoc to the fellow sisters who are fighting for the survival of the planet, but also their own families and children. And so I see that connection very important, both as a woman from Korea, from what is once considered a third world, and I see a better future in being able to be in solidarity with those sisters. And so, so that's why I'm doing this work. And right now, my organization, the Labor Community Strategy Center, I'm part of the Clean Air, Clean Lungs, Clean Buses campaign, which is really tackling the automobile and auto development in Los Angeles. In LA, about 40% of the greenhouse gas emissions comes from single passenger auto. And it's the very, excessive, lifestyle and consumption of resources, exorbitant resources, like countries in the US, in particular, in the auto capital of the world, cities like LA, that are causing the climate change crisis. And so if we really want to strategically reduce emissions of greenhouse gases, we're saying that we need to tackle the auto in Los Angeles. So our organization is right now trying to expand clean, sustainable mass transit by taking space away from the car, by saying no to highways, and really trying to increase funding for affordable first-class mass bus transportation system for working-class communities, especially who depend on it. And so my work has been organizing people out on the streets putting immense pressure on both the local elected officials, and we actually won our first Wilshire bus-only lane that is gonna, for the first time, is gonna challenge the automobile and actually advance the mobility of public transportation users in Los Angeles. So I think there's a lot of work to be done, but it was great to come to this conference and connect with other organizations to potentially, do more national ally building work and trying to find a common ground in terms of how can we strategically push for policies that reduce emissions and take a more responsible road around climate change.